Great. So I have bios, so I'll just do a quick introduction of both of you. I know it's really hard to hear your bio, but unless one of you's a Leo, you'll enjoy it. Dr. Fahamu Pecou received his BFA at the Atlanta College of Art in 1997 and a PhD from Emory University in 2018. Dr. Pecou exhibits his art worldwide in addition to lectures and speaking engagements at colleges and universities. Let's give a round of applause to Dr. Fahamu Pecou. And Tremain Hamilton, Trey, has over 16 years of experience in professional television and video production, skilled in verite and reality television as a director of photography, and camera operator. Trey is experienced in shooting and lighting sit-down interviews and editing digital content. He has a proven track record of working well independently and part of multi-camera crews. Give a round of applause to Trey.
That was my LinkedIn bio.
That's probably where it came from.
No, it is.
So I want to start off with something light, which is just what is bringing both of you joy right now?
Wow. Well, first of all, being here is bringing me great joy. Always super proud of the work that you've done and the growth of BlackStar Film Festival, but even more so every time I come, like even yesterday, sitting in an ice cream shop through the window, it's like, this is your life, you know, and just seeing friends from different, you know, places and spaces that I've known and running into people. It's always like a big family reunion, so that brings me great joy.
How about you, Trey?
Also being here, but to kind of piggyback off of something he said, just growth. You know, simply that, you know, being here is growth for me, just in terms of the way my career has been progressing, and here is like a complete like pivot, you know, but also like a point of growth. So, you know, growing in love and life, all of that, it's just been cool.
Beautiful. What are you both watching right now? I have a guilty thing that I'm watching, so tell me the guilty pleasure that you're watching right now.
I am a creature of extreme habit. I end up watching the same series over and over again. So I'm on my maybe 17th run of Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Modern Family.
Excellent shows. That's not as guilty as mine. I'm watching a Christian drama called Sweet Magnolias. It is not good. And I'm like just stuck, so.
I'm watching Yellowstone right now. It's something about seeing white people being mean to each other that really brings me a lot of joy. But also, it's like it's a really dope story, man. Like I swear, every time I finish an episode, like I feel like I'm a cowboy a little bit. Like I want to ranch, the whole nine. But yeah, Yellowstone is like somewhat my guilty pleasure right now. I can't get enough of it.
That's awesome. So let's get into If Heaven Had Heights, which I just want a reminder is screening right after our talk at 11 a.m. in the Perlman Theater as part of the Venerative Shorts. How did you all get to this story? What was the inspiration, and how did you come to collaborate?
So If Heaven Had Heights is a part of a larger body of work. It's an exhibition of paintings, drawings, and also the film. The project was inspired by this quote from Albert Einstein. Actually, it says, it says something like, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will forever live feeling inadequate, right? And so I was thinking about that and thinking about the state of like black youth and black youth culture and the ways in which we often are so hypercritical of everything that black children do. And we never really give them grace to make mistakes and evolve and growing, right? And so this idea of If Heaven Had Heights is really about challenging the ways in which we think about our possibility and our potential. And so it features a character, a spirit that I created called Sad God, which represents the spirit of rebelliousness in black youth. And so you see him in his trickery ways, elevating our young people.
You've been interested in tricksters, I think, for a lot of your career. So can you also talk about, how did you come to collaborate with Trey on this?
Trey and I have known each other for a long time. He's an amazing videographer, amazing photographer. And when I wrote the story, I sent it to him, and he was like, I see it. And it was just that simple. It was, I gave him the words and he went to work. So that's how it went.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. I mean, when he reached out, I was like, me? So and he, it's true, like everything that he had in the treatment, I saw it shot for shot. It just kind of came to me. So it was really effortless in that respect to make it happen. It's like I could see it as I was reading it. So, I mean, it was really his words that just, made everything happen.
Trey, do you have, from your LinkedIn bio, it seems like you have a lot of experience in documentary and nonfiction making. So was making an experimental project, is that normal for you, or was this like the first time?
It's the first time. It was, I mean, it's a drastic departure. Like, my lens is normally pointed at, like, the Real Housewives of Atlanta and things of that nature. So to be able to take a departure from that type of storytelling to something like this, like I said, it's part of the growth that I've been experiencing. I feel like everyone that works in reality television or verite got in it with the purpose of, like, eventually ending up in, like, features and scripted. But I've been in it almost 20 years at this point, so, like, I'm kind of stuck. But this has given me the opportunity to pivot, make those transitions, grow in creative ways that I've always wanted to, but just never really had the opportunity to. So, yeah, I was really more than honored to help bring this vision to life.
Thank you. Fahamu, what was making, so you mentioned that this is part of a larger exhibition, so how did you imagine this piece separate from the paintings, I guess, or the other pieces? Did you expect for it to travel on its own? Was that your intention?
Oh, most certainly. I think when I think about my projects, I tend to think about them through, by trying to figure out multiple points of entry into the conversations, right? And so, more often than not, when I have an idea for something, rather than saying, I got to make this a painting, I'm like, what is this idea supposed to be, right? And then let it be whatever it is. But yeah, I always saw the film as something separate because it can operate and move in spaces that a painting cannot. Particularly, if someone buys a painting, it lives in that space, and if you have access to it, then you can see it. But the film can be anywhere and everywhere. So that's always an exciting thing for me to think about how a work can move on its own and have its own life.
And do you know where this is going next? Or do you have a hope for where it would go next?
I hope it goes viral. But I'm just open to it developing and building a life of its own. So once it's out in the world, I let it do what it do.
Trey, can you talk about the production of this? Like, how long did it take for this from your initial, like, seeing it and then you all going into, the script writing, and then how long did you shoot and what was the editing like?
I want to say, like, altogether, it might have taken like a month, but I mean, there was probably like 2 actual days of shooting. I mean, there was, he had a treatment, and that was it. There wasn't, because there isn't much dialogue within it. So just based on the treatment, we went into casting. We shot it in 2 days, and it probably took me a little under 2 weeks just to edit, to fine tune. There was some, like, a scoring perspective and all of these type of things that I had never really ventured into. So it was also like a lot of firsts for me, just kind of stretching muscles that I didn't even know I had. And shout out to the sister doing the signing. I just seen her do the stretch muscles thing. That's really dope. But yeah, it was just a lot of firsts for me in that space. But yeah, I'd say altogether maybe about a month that it took from reading to actually having a finished product.
Can I do want to shout out to Trey for also working on the score, because that was actually really amazing. We worked with Ray Maori from Organized Noise to produce the score, and then Trey actually took what Ray gave him, basically the stems, and cut it together, to go along with the film, which was another really amazing, thing that he brought to the table. And I think you said, like, it was your first time doing anything like that.
Yeah, I got to dip my toe in sound design. So just like even the pan and the fade of the sound, and there were like sounds that I couldn't find that I just made myself. So doing Foley, like, kind of just, like I said, stretching muscles, growing. And yeah, I think that's the theme for this conversation, growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was my next question. So now I'm going to open it up to the audience while I think of something else. Does anybody have any questions for them? Yep. Oh, wait, Eugene, I think we have to have you on the mic for accessibility. Thank you, Niall.
You had said, well, hi. You had said that your vision is to go viral. And I was remembering that I read in a Malcolm Gladwell book, The Tipping Point, the three things: the maven, the salesperson, and the connector. And since we're on the world stage and we're watching this go viral in your aspiration, is there any people that you want to shout out in those three capacities working together, because we're watching and being a part of your experience of going viral? Thanks.
Wow, that's a big question.
I didn't mean to hit you that early with the morning with this now. The connector, the maven, and the salesperson.
The connector, the maven, and the salesperson. Wow. Yeah, that might be a little bit more than I can process in this,
You had coffee?
in this brief. No, I have not.
Yeah.
In this brief moment, but I will say this: I do think that there are aspects of our story, of our livelihood, of our experience here that need to be told, and oftentimes the things that do go viral, the things that do get this kind of visibility and mobility in terms of like popular culture, are not the things that we need, right? Like it's not it's junk food, it's not soul food, right? And I think it's on all of us to do what we can from our positions, right, to create and disseminate soul food. So,
Any other questions? So I'd love to know what you're working on next, both of you.
I'm working on myself.
Ashe.
Yeah, that's that. In a nutshell, that's pretty much it. Yeah, there's some television show coming on Bravo at some point that I'm involved with. I don't know when, I don't know where, but again, like he was saying, I mean, as much as I'm appreciative of my career and the opportunities that it has presented me, I feel like a lot of what I participate in is not necessarily soul food. So, yeah, I ain't really like looking forward to it. I just appreciate that it paid the bills. So I'm looking forward to working on more things like this. So that's what's next for me, is finding more spaces to expand that way.
For me, I'm working on a new project, a new exhibition. It's been a sort of growing process for me as well. This question of like Black possibility, and especially Black possibility beyond the lens of like white supremacy, right? And so the new project that I'm working on is an exhibition called "Who Are We When White People Ain't Looking?" And the whole idea is to sort of create and craft a new cosmology of Blackness that's not rooted in trauma, or ideas of Blackness that are not rooted in trauma. And so I'm excited about that because I don't know what that looks like. And I imagine the possibility is infinite, but it's also daunting to begin to like remove all of those layers of comfort and stability and safety and knowing that we operate in to try to discover what that looks like. So I'm excited about that.
So Fahamu, do you have a bank of ideas that are sort of sitting on a list somewhere and you work through them, or do you go one by one?
No.
You finish an exhibit and start another?
I have ideas oozing out of my pocket. Constantly, please don't tell the DMV this, but I drive with my knee while writing on my phone ideas and thoughts about things that I want to work on. So often, I'm listening to a song and I might hear a clever line and I got to jot that down because that sends me, down a path. Or I'm in a conversation, the question that the brother just asked now has me working through what does that look like? Who are those characters, right? And so, yeah, I mean, in my phone right now is pages and pages and pages of notes of ideas, show titles, work piece titles, sketches, all kind of things like that. So,
Yeah. How about you, Trey? Do you have any private projects, like personal art projects that you're thinking about?
So, I mean, similar to him, like in my phone, I have like pages and pages of ideas. I don't think I'm as good as like making them happen though, because I just get distracted. I got distracted in the conversation and forgot the question. So my my attention span is super, like, everything catches my attention, and therefore there are like endless notes of ideas. But I do have some personal things that I'm working on, with my photography and whatnot. I'm inspired by this brother here in terms of just like the impact that he has through his expression. I see just earlier today a sister walked up to us and just expressed how he's been impactful to her, and that is inspiring to me because it's all art. It's just it's what's in your head, and it connects to people in very strange and intimate ways, even ways beyond what you imagined that expression to be. So I am a lot more motivated and inspired to kind of like get those ideas out of my phone. So yeah, I got a couple things that I'm working on, but to name them right now, I'd be lying if I did it.
Oh, no, I wasn't asking you to name. I'm just always interested. I mean, I think some people are monotaskers and they have to like work on something, complete it, and then start the
Oh
next.
no,
And
there's a
people are,
bunch of things in the works at once with me at all times.
same. And not in the works. Well, that's all the questions that I had. Is there anybody else in the audience? Okay, now we have questions. We'll start in the front here.
Hello, good morning. Great talk. The question is for Fahamu. One of the consistent themes in your work is about, Black boy joy and self-expression. Another consistent theme is African cosmology and spirituality. For you, why is it important that those two conversations run parallel and are constantly, in connection with one another?
Yeah, thank you for that. It's mostly because as Black people, as Black boys, Black girls, our experience, we're often exposed to ideas and images that tell us that we don't matter as much, right? That our lives aren't as valuable as other people's lives, right? And so a part of embracing African cosmologies and African spirituality is about affirmation, right? It's very difficult for us to operate in a world where all of our religious and spiritual totems and icons, right? Like they don't look like us. So no matter how hard you try, you can never achieve that. That's why this project is called If Heaven Had Heights, right? Like if heaven looked like you, right? If God looked like you, then you can ascend to that. If it doesn't, you'll hit a ceiling. You'll never get but so far, right? And so a part of the idea for me is about affirmation. And finding ways to show us in a light that the world does not often reflect.
There are two questions back. I think Rashid and...
Hi, thank you for your work. I more have a comment. You mentioned two things. Earlier you talked about how our children grow up with being like kind of persecuted almost in their expression of themselves. So to me, I had that thought earlier before I came here about how I was policed as a child by my parents or just the community around me. And then a little bit later, you mentioned how, what would we look like without our exposure to the trauma of being Black in a white America, or an America that's been looked at as white even though it's ours. Mm-hmm. So those two things really resonated with me. And there's a book I wanted to let you know about if you don't know already. It's called African Unconscious by Edward Bruce Bynum. And it deals with that, who we were, who we are, prior to this white identity and personality. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I look forward to checking it out.
Hootie hoo, hootie hoo.
Hootie hoo.
Hootie hoo! I've been a huge fan of your work for a while, but I really appreciate you sharing that, you have ideas on deck all the time. And I'm curious, how do you choose, out of the pages, and I'm sure lines and lines in your notes app, how do you make a decision on, I'm going to work on this next, I'm going to include this in the show, so on and so forth?
Yeah, so that's the interesting thing I think about, like, my practice as well, right? It's like, even when I begin to like do a series of paintings, I'll do a photo shoot, where I'm documenting the performance of this idea, and then I use that as as a kind of study to make the paintings from. But once I get into it, then I kind of let it take me where it's going to go. And it's similar to how I select those ideas. So while I might have, a roster of things that I'm choosing from, it's very organic, like what comes up. So it's kind of like what's happening in the moment. I might sit with an idea for 2-3 years before it actually begins to take shape. And I give myself time to kind of live with it, to kind of trouble it, flip it upside down, look at it from every angle before I ever try to do anything. And I think that, for that reason, it keeps me very interested in the work, because I never think about what I'm doing as a declaration or a statement, but more so as a question, right? So I approach the work as a question. I want to leave it open-ended as a question when it's presented, because ultimately that's the thing that I think engages our minds the most. Is like, what is it making me think about, not what is it telling me to do?
Well, thank you both so much. Let's give them a round of applause. Is that a question, Yaba? Oh, we have one here, sorry. This is the last one.
Thank you very much for your work. My question was around the circulation of your films, or what happens to your films after this film festival, specifically in circulating in non-Western and non-North European regions. Because sometimes film festivals, and especially in the North, become this thing where these films come, get accreditations and, acknowledgement, but after that it doesn't really travel. So what are your thoughts on this?
Can I ask you a question? Where do you live?
Me? In Berlin.
Oh, no, I thought you might be in the South, because I'm like, we need you to bring it.
Well, 27 years of my life I've lived in India, so I'm coming from that perspective.
Well, I will say, this is the world premiere of the film at the BlackStar Film Festival, but it will have its premiere at the Bronze Lens Film Festival in Atlanta later this month. So, yeah. But the goal is to get it out to as many places as possible, to get it online. It's a short film, and so it's easily consumable. The goal is to try to get it out as broadly and widely as possible. I'm new to this space, kind of, similar to Trey, in terms of films, but, any suggestions, any resources that anyone could share, I'm wide open for, so.
Thank you. The screening will be at 11 a.m. in the Kimmel Center, this building, in the Perlman Theater as part of the Venerative Shorts. It'll also be available online. And so, thank you all.
Thank you, Maori. Thank you.